更好的人这样子。那这也是教练可以协助选手其中之一。
We talked about open-minded, that you're constantly learning, so you already had that here. It's very big to constantly keep up with what's new, what's the game being played today. If you learned the game maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, are you going to be interested in finding out how the grips have changed, how things are different, you know, keeping up with that newer trend?
再来就是 open mind， 就是愿意去学习更多的新的东西，然后要一直持续的去学习，因为以网球这个东西就已经从过去30年、20年、10年最近的5年都有一个很大的一个在转变。那你要一直持续的在学习新的东西。另外这个罗娜他没有提到，就是说，其实你在当一个教练，你还要再去想说，未来的10年。网球会怎么样子？那你假如是在教比较小的小孩子的话，那你要想说他未来的10年，他要是成为什么样子？那你这个在这个前阶段的时候，你已经要开始再去栽培这样子。I just add one more. It's not just learning, from the past. Also, you gotta think about the future of the player. 10 years from now, how you wanted to do it. Yeah.
Which is the next one. So about the process, the teaching process, the coaching process, and not so much about the outcome. If you're working with a young player, and let's say they're like 12 years old, and if you focus only about winning, I want them to win this tournament, but all they do is moonballing, right? Are they really going to develop in a really good player 4 years down the road? Or are you going to focus on, no, I want you to serve, and I want you to come in to be aggressive. Even if you're going to maybe lose a couple matches, but you're actually focusing on the big picture. What is your plan with that player? It's not just about winning this tournament, because nobody's going to remember that tournament 4 or 5 years from now. It's going to remember. We're going to see what that player is going to do
today. 所以基本上你在训练的时候，你要有一个很大的一个明确的目标，就是说，这未来这个小孩子，希望他是怎么样，或者选手希望怎么样子。那你不要单单只是想说，现在他们打得怎样，现在的成绩怎么样子，他们有一个更大的目标要去达成。那你假如说你为了这个小目标你要达成的时候，你错失掉你未来大的目标的话。那等到你时间到要达到那个大目标的时候，就已经没有办法去达成了。
Next one is the same. So success is not always about winning, right? You can perform and play a match really good and fight and maybe lose in the 3rd set in tiebreak, right? But that was a good fight. You did everything the coach told you. The player followed your patterns, followed your advice that you gave him before the match, and he gave a good performance. But he lost, right? So that's when you're really trying to teach them that it's not just about winning this one match. If you did the right thing, 2-3 matches down the road, you're gonna win it.
就是说，不是那个成功，不就代表说你赢球就是成功？有时候你在一场比赛，或者你的选手在比赛的时候，他有遵循你要教他们的，你要他们做的，他们都有做到了，他们也打得非常好了。那问题是他们到最后没有赢了这场球，那这不叫代表他们失败了，因为他们只要持续再这样做下去的话，他们未来的2-3场或者是之后面一点的话，他们持续在这样做的时候，他们就会开始有更大的成功。
Next one is setting realistic goals. So if we're working with a player that's 8 years old and your goal is for them to win Grand Slam Roland Garros in 2 years or 4 years, it might not be realistic depending on where they are. So we should have a goal for each player every 3 months, every 6 months, right? Every year you have a goal, a plan. And you're setting them realistically. Is this something that they can accomplish, or is this something that it just looks good? I want them to be number 1 in the world, but is that really realistic?
再来就是设定比较就是明确的还有真实的目标。就是说你在设立目标的时候有短期、长期的目标。那像我们不可能说一个8岁的小孩子，所以这个2年以后他就要赢那个大满贯。那这样大满贯青少年，那就代表说这个是比较 不真实的目标。那我们在设定这个目标的时候，你要去评估你的选手的能力，然后去了解说，怎么样去执行。那这个是非常重要的。
Flexible, we talked about it here, trying to be flexible and kind of open-minded with the player that you're working with, because not everybody reacts the same way. So adjusting your coaching to the different players.
再来就是flexible， 就是可以容易比较来变动这样子，因为每个选手有不同的的 personality， 他们的个性啊之类的，那你要因为你会。教练会面对不同样的选手所以你要去有办法去做任何快速的改变。
And then last but not least, which is very important, and it kind of goes back to your philosophy, you have to have your standards, right? These are the things that I'm not going to accept. I'm not going to accept the player to be rude to me or to be rude to the players. I'm not going to accept the parents to get involved and tell me how to teach. Regardless of, depending on what your situation is, but you have to have your own standards, right? This is what you expect from yourself, and these are the things that you expect from the player. And they're non-negotiable. We're not going to negotiate about you being respectful to me or whatever the case may be.
这个就是你有自己的一个标准在，那这个是没有办法讨论的，就是说你要知道。这也是跟你的 philosophy 很有关系就是类似说你不允许说那个选手跟你没大没小这样子，这个是不可能发生的或者是有家长要介入，你教学，那到什么样的阶段是就这是我的标准，他不会再让他们超越这条线的你想要让他这个超越这条线的话，你到最后就是没有办法控制的。I can share a quick example about Rafael Nadal. Never ever sold a racket. Okay, his uncle Tony, not this Tony, the other Tony. 他是不允许他去敲这个球拍，这是他的 standard， 他是 no negotiable。我管你是世界第一，你赢多少大满贯，这件事情是绝对不能做的。那成为一个教练也是需要有这个。
And on that point, it could be one of the standards could be that I expect the player to give everything they have in practice and in match every day. Like, I don't care if you win or lose, but I want you to give me everything you have. And that's what Rafael does all the time. Whether he loses, he's like fighting until the very end. And that could be the standard that you expect from the player to give you every day.
所以你成为一个教练，这个也是其中一个 standard， 就是说，选手来训练或者在比赛，一定要给你100%，这个就是你的 standard。那假如说选手没有办法达到你这个 standard 的话，说不定这个就不是你需要教的学生。
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the different ways you're coaching, right? Obviously, we all have different personalities, and the players have different personalities. And each personality works differently and works best for certain people. So as coaches, we have to have a good understanding of what is it that we're doing and if it's working with our players.
基本上教练差不多有3个教学的那个 style 的方式。那每一个人都有他们的方式，那不是说有对跟错这样子。那那个罗莫拉会跟我们来分享这3个有不同的那个 style。
So the first one is the command style, right? We've probably seen it. It's very common, even in Romania. It's very common, right? So the coach tells you what to do. I want you to hit 10 forehands cross court, and I want you to do it now. And you're going to do it right now because I told you so, right? But the player doesn't really get any reason behind it. I want you to hit 10 cross court because I want you to develop depth, for example. Or I want you to be consistent so that you don't miss errors. That could be a simple example.
就是这个command style 就是指令性的那个 style， 在这个也是非常普遍的，连那个罗马尼亚他那个国家也常常在用这样子的 style 在教学，就是说，教练给你一个指令，说你要去做什么事情，你就去做。 反正选手是为什么要去做这个，选手也不知道，只是反正就是跟着就去做了这样子。那假如可以的话，假如说你可以跟选手说，你要做这件事情，那为什么要做这件？那我们可以训练说，你打10个正拍啊，那你要确认说，10个球要够深啊，为什么要打得够深等等的，那这样就不会是完全是指令性的教学方式。
Second style, not necessarily second, but just another example, is the submissive style. It's not that common, but certain coaches are that way, where they don't really care that much. They just kind of show up and let the players do whatever they want, and they don't really have anything to say. The players don't listen to anybody. They just kind of doing whatever they want, and the place looks like a chaos.
这又是另外一个教学方式，就是说，教练什么都不管，就反正就让你去做你想要做的事情，那这样的训练有时候你去看的时候，就好像是一个比较没有组织的，就比较乱七八糟的一个方式，这样。
And the next one, the cooperative style, is really where you're working together with the player as a team, right? So you set a goal. Okay, today we're gonna work on patterns. We're gonna establish 3 patterns that you're gonna own, and here's what we're gonna do. Do you understand? What do you think? Does that sound good?
就是再来第3个就是说你要怎么样跟选手就是 work together， 就是可以一起在一起去学习啊，或者是在提升这样子。然后通常你会去问选手一些问题，为什么我们这样做可以吗？或者是你有什么你的想法之类等等的，所以就是会跟选手有更深层的一些沟通。
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the advantages of the command style. It can work really well sometimes, right? Especially with kids that don't listen, and you might have to get their attention. You're trying to start the lesson, and they're over there talking, and it's like, okay, guys, listen up. And that's a command style, right? You're getting your attention, you're getting their attention, and that's not a bad thing, right? So it's not harmful in any way, and there's times when we use it.
像指令性的方式，我们现在要讨论是指令性的那个教学方式有什么好处？那这不代表不好，其实有时候你也是需要用到，就是说你在训练的时候有几个选手在后面一直在聊天，那你要想说嘿注意一下这样子，那这个也是指令性的，这个对选手也没有说很大的影响，那他们指令性有它的一些好处在。
But then there's also a few disadvantages with the style, especially if you do it long term. Players might do what you tell them to do, but they might not understand it or kind of believe it. You tell them, oh, I saw this new way of hitting a forehand, and we're going to do it. And they're like, well, why would I do it? I don't really know why he's teaching me that, and I'm just going to do it because he tells me so. But I have no understanding of why this is beneficial.
像这个的话，也有一些不好的地方，就类似说，你在教选手的时候，选手根本不知道为什么。那有时候他们在用的时候，他们就没有那个信心去使用你在教他的，或者是说你就是有教练去看他说新的东西，就说我看到人家现在是这样子的打法，那我来做，那你就跟着这样做。然后问题是选手也不知道为什么原因，为什么要这样做。那这样子的话，对选手来说，是没有很大的帮助。
So the students could listen to you and be very obeying and do exactly what you tell them, but with time, especially if you're working with them for a really long time and you go to tournaments and you practice 2 times a day, 6 hours a day, it kind of starts turning into burnout and no motivation. It can take away the joy of, okay, I'm just doing what I'm told every single day.
假如通常是用这种教学方式的话，时间一拉长的话，那个选手就会 burn out， 就会有点就是不想打了啊。那对网球这个东西，他们已经觉得说，为什么我怎么一直重复在做每天同样的东西？他们已经找不到这个乐趣。 所以假如说以这种指令性的教学把时间拉长的话，对选手的影响不会有太多正面的。
And that also turns players to become dependent on the coach, right? So if you're not traveling with them, they might not know what to do. They might always look for guidance. They might not be able to take a decision, and they might, always have to call you, okay, coach, what do I do tomorrow? They're not able to think on their own if they're not understanding the why behind it.
那假如是指令性的话，选手假如去比赛，然后你没有跟着出去的话，他们就没有办法表现，因为他们太习惯你在他旁边教他们怎么做了，就是变成他们有一些自律性啊之类的，他们就不知道为什么，所以就是说这个的话也会对选手有一些影响。
Okay, the next one we talked briefly about it. The coach is not really taking any action or direction of the class. The class is kind of a chaos. Players do whatever they like, and players usually don't really trust, not necessarily trust, but have little respect or hear the instruction if there's any.
假如是你就是让选手去做他们想要做的事情，就没有有组织的管理的话，通常这样子的选手比较没有办法教练比较没有办法得到选手的尊重跟信任。
The cooperative style is where we actually get the players involved in the process. So like I said earlier, if we're working, for example, if this week's goal is to improve serve variety, right? We're going to work on kick serve, and I want you to hit wide, and then we're going to do that because I want you to open up the court so you can go to the other side, or whatever the case may be. But the student has a good understanding of why you're doing it and what is it that they get out of it, and also get their feedback. How is your arm feeling? Are you hitting too many serves? Is your shoulder getting tired? Things like that, where you keep the student involved in the process.
那这个教学方式的话，就是让选手可以更就是融入在这个教学里面，让他们成为这个学习的一部分。就类似说你发完球啊，你为什么要打那边？然后为什么这样子？为什么那样子？那这样子的话，你会跟选手有一些沟通，然后有一些反馈，或者是说你打完了，你会说，你的肩膀觉得怎么样子啊？你会从选手身上得到更多的资讯，让你可以去更了解这个选手，然后你可以去决定说怎么样再去协助这个选手。
So we talked here when we came up with this list about the communication, how it's very open and it actually reaches the student. So this way, with this style, it actually reaches them because they feel like the coach actually has my best interest. They want to hear what I have to say.
像我们之前在那边有讨论这个相信这个重点，那就是说，你假如说可以跟选手有这个沟通的话，那选手会感觉上，我这个教练是真的是在乎我，他想要了解说我的问题是什么样子，不是单单只是说看到我怎么样，他也完全不了解我，就跟我讲说，你要做什么。那这样子的话，你会跟选手建立更好的一个信任之间的信任。
And it also creates a little bit more flexibility on the player, where they become a little bit more independent thinking. They understand the process. They understand the why am I coming to practice again, even though I'm tired after a long tournament. They're engaged. So then the confidence and the whole process just becomes a little bit more easier on the player.
像这样子的话，你可以就是让那个选手会知道说，为什么我来训练啊？为什么很多的为什么，他们自己就会去想，然后会比较有独立的个性。那对这样子的话，在这个过程当中会变得更简单不需要就是说教练整天在后面一直在鞭策这个选手，因为这个选手他们就会慢慢了解说，我为什么要做这个东西，这个对我来说是有什么影响。
So in closing, it's not necessarily that we're telling you to choose a particular style, right? But there's times and places where you might be a little bit more cooperative, and sometimes you might have to be a little bit more command and kind of get their attention and really come across with that message. But you know, just keep it in mind. Keep an open mind of what is it working best for your players.
不代表说这是哪一个是最好的，因为它是照状况来说，对不对？那假如说有时候你需要去指令的时间比较多的话，那你需要去这样去做。那你要做 cooperative 的话，就是说这个也是你要来去调配的。Even sometimes you just want to have fun, you just want你有时候只是要好玩，让这个小选手去玩的话，其实你也可以去放着让他们自己去打。然后这个时候他们说不定去玩出一些东西是你没有办法教他们的。I just mentioned say sometimes we can let the player go with the second one. Just let them play. Let them
kids.
Yeah, let them try different things. Sometimes they learn something that you can't even teach them. Yeah, 有时候他们会在玩乐之中，他们学到一些东西是你们都没有办法教他们的。
Yep. Any questions so far?
想请教Coach Romero， 就是刚刚这3种教学的方式，大概第一种我们可能就会马上会联想我们的填鸭式教育，就是 command， 我就教你怎么做。最后一种可能就是我们讲的所谓的明示教育，但是可能他的建议里面比较建议我们最后一种。我想听看 Romero 他的想法，他跟我们分享如果他的教学的话，那个 education 跟 training， 还有一个是 beginner 跟 elite。在他的观点上，这3种的比例，他大概会做怎么样的调配，在我们的教学应用上、训练上。
Okay, so basically, we can use those 3 styles, right? And then there's the beginning player, elite player, and how do you divide? Say okay, we're teaching beginning player, right? We want to use more command or use more cooperative, and then when we teach the elite player. Are we going to using more proactive or less command? How do you measure or how do you kind of shift those kind of things?
Right. That's a really good question. So, like I said at the very beginning, the command style works really well at first, right? When you start off, especially with kids, managing them, even with adults, it could work really well.
像初学啊，然后刚开始一群人这样子的话 ，command style 就很好用，因为你变成你要管理很多选手嘛，或者是小孩子，他们只是来这边打就不是会很注意的话，那 command style 这个比例会比较重一点点。
And then the more you work with more elite players, the more time you spend with them, right? So you can't always, it's hard to always be do that. And for them to still kind of feel like the coach really cares about me. He wants me to tell them what I think, or that trust that you were telling earlier. The trust cannot really happen unless you hear the player too, right? So that's where.
你假如说在这个跟这个选手接触的时间更长的时候，那个 cooperative style 就是会越来越多因为你们需要建立之间的信任啊。要不然的话，这个是没有办法持续下去的。
So, as a conclusion, right, we definitely want to be in charge. We're coaches, right? We're the ones deciding what we're doing. The purpose of this was to kind of give them the awareness of the different ways, and they will just have to be able to pick it for the right student and kind of adjust from there. So whatever will work best for the players, that's kind of what they would have to go back and forth maybe sometimes with some of the styles.
所以回到原点，再怎么讲说，我们还是教练，我们要来做这个决定。那相对就是说，这个没有对跟错，不是说那个 command 不好，或者是 command 比较好，或者是 cooperative 比较好。其实每一个选手的个性啊，还有这个都会不一样。那这个的话，就是以教练的经验来说，要怎么样去调配，然后可以做一个更好的连接。
I think the trust that we talked about earlier and where that connection with the player happens, for those of you that coach for a long time, you can tell that really helps with the relationship, coach-player relationship.
So, 加入这个相信这个信任这个东西啊，其实在座有很多教练也有教学很多年的经验，也有经历在很长时间跟同一个选手在交流，或者是在引导他们。那以这个信任这个东西是到最后是一个非常非常重要的东西。
Any other questions?
还有没有什么问题？
Okay, so we talked about our way of communicating the information to the players, right? But it's not just about sending the information, it's also about how they perceive it, how they hear us, right?
我们刚才讨论就是说我们怎么样去教这个选手，那不是只有我们怎么样去跟他们讲之类的，那这个有几种说他们自己要有什么样的方式可以来学习到我们要给他们的资讯。
So this would be very applicable when working with new players or younger players where you don't really know them very well. And after a few repetitions or a few demonstrations, you can tell what type of learner they are. So for example, I am a visual learner. I like to see what that person is saying, but at the same time, I have a good time understanding it, but I have to see it first.
像每个学生他学习的方式会不一样，有些是需要就是你要跟他们讲解，有些是他看了就会从中间去模仿。那所以就是说你要先去了解这个学生他是要怎么样子可以去 engage 去跟他们有一个很好的沟通。那我们可以透过这几种不同的方式来跟这个选手就是沟通跟交流。
So for example, a verbal person that likes to tell them and for them to listen to what you're saying, right? It could be like a lengthier explanation and where they really have to understand it, you just have to explain it well and they get it, right? They may see it, but they don't, like for example, you demonstrate it and they're like, oh, okay, but they're not really understanding what's different. He's showing me something, but I'm not seeing it. He has to explain it to me.
像有一些选手，他是需要你跟他们解释一个环节一个环节。你假如说只是做一个动作给他们看的话，他们没有办法完全的了解。那你需要就是说，你这个拉拍怎么样子？你这边转身，你这边怎么样收拍？你要把一个细节一个细节把它讲清楚，那这个选手才有办法去了解。那因为有很多不同样的选手，他们学习的方式都是不一样的啊，所以verbal 是一个一种跟选手沟通的方式。
The next one is the visual. Like I said, I'm a visual learner. I like to see. So sometimes you might not even have to say anything. You just show me. I want you to follow through all the way here, or I want you to go a little more top spin here at the very end. And that's all I have to see, and then I know what I have to do.
有些选手是比较偏向知识，这样看了他们就可以去了解需要怎么做像 Ramona 他是比较偏向是 visual， 他是需要看的，你只要跟他看，你去做几个动作给他看的话，他就有办法去学习。那这个也是其中一个教学的方式跟技巧，就是你可以做这个动作让这个选手去了解。
And the last one is where they really have to demonstrate it. So you're teaching them a new skill. Unless they actually do it, they're not really going to be able to comprehend it or absorb it.
最后一个就是说，他们一定要下去做要做到了，他们才可以去了解。那这个的话，就是说你要示范让他们下去尝试，让他们去真正去体会了，他们才会有办法做到你想要他们做的。所以基本上就是有这3项你可以去想办法看怎么样去跟选手去这个交流。第一个是用口述的，第二个是用让选手去看的，那第三个是让他们去体会。
So a good example, for example, would be something that's more complex. You're teaching an intermediate player how to hit the kick serve, right? And you're talking about pronation, and I want you to extend up and out, and then you're going to cover it, go this way. And they're like, what? You know, like I actually have to do it, otherwise I cannot. You're explaining, you're showing, but unless they actually go through the motion, they're not going to really be able to.
那假如就是像比较高阶层的一些动作的话，通常就是会变成你要让那个选手去尝试，类似说你要打一个那个上旋球，怎么样去 pronate 去旋转你这个手腕，怎么样去收拍下来。 那你假如说只是单单你去示范，你单单只是跟他口述的话，选手还是做不出来。那个的话就是说，你要让他们去体验，你要去让他们去了解，让他们去尝试去做到的时候，他们才有办法去了解。
And the more the better the player get, they become a combination of this, right? So depends where they are. Sometimes just a little quick tip could work really well. Sometimes just a short demo could work really well. So it doesn't mean that we're just this or we're just that. It's sometimes we're a combination of things. So you just, as a coach, you just have to see what works best for the player.
所以就是说，在教练你要来看，就是说，哪一个对你的选手比较适合那这个是可以变来变去的，不是说就一定要这样子，选手才有办法学习所以就是说，当教练的话，你自己也要去观察，就是说，怎么样可以让这个小选手更能了解你要跟他们讲的事情。那相对，这次又回到 trust， 那个你跟选手之间的沟通，然后说不定像有一些教练带这个选手带了很久了。有时候你连话都不用讲，你使个眼色他就知道了什么意思了。对，这个就是有一些就是说怎么样去跟那个选手沟通。
We're not going to spend too much time here, but just a quick example. So there are basically 4 stages of learning. So the player learns in these different stages. The first one is for maybe translate, just say that we're going to talk briefly about it.
我们这个就可能会带过，很快的带过，然后只有就是你在学习的时候有4个阶段。
So the first stage is really more at the beginning level, right, where the player doesn't really have much background of what is it that you're teaching them. So they're really when they hit the ball everywhere and they don't have any control, they don't really know why they're doing it and what is it that they're doing.
一个就是比较刚开始的这个阶段，几乎就是选手打下去，他也不知道为什么我打下来打了球会跑那边，然后会怎么样子。那这是他们的学习的第一个阶段。
The next stage is really where they're becoming a little bit more familiar with what is it that you're telling them to do, and they're like understanding, but they're still not able to make the shot or demonstrate what is it that you're teaching them.
第二个阶段就是说，你已经那个选手已经开始了解说，你要教他什么？问题是他还没有办法做到你要教他的。
The next one is really where they have enough repetitions, right? Because it's all about repetition, and they're aware of what is it that they're doing, and they're actually getting success from doing that skill.
第三个就是说 repetition， 意思就是说，你就是一个持续的训练，他就会让那个选手就是说，他知道他在做什么，他也有办法达到他想要做的事情的，这是第三个阶段。
And then last is where really the ideal state is where you're really automatic, right? You just close your eyes and you can hit it. You close your eyes and you hit your serve out wide with not even trying, and that comes with repetition.
那第四个就是你已经拥有这个技术了，技术就是说球来了你就可以马上打，然后你也不用去思考就是说你要发一个那个外角旋球，你可以就球丢了你就可以打了，你也不用去想太多。那这个就是第四个阶段。那这个阶段就是需要 repetition， 就是要花一些时间去重复的去练习。
So one thing for those of you, I'm not sure who you're working with, but like if you're working with beginner level players, where they're at the very first stage, giving a lot of information is really not going to help. So that's where they have no background of what is it that you're trying to teach them, and just giving them, I want you to split step, I want you to turn, I want you to take the racket back, I want you to hit the contact out in front, and then follow through. And they're like, what? Which one should I do first? So the kind of understanding who you're working with is very important, right?
看你的学生的那个就是程度还有阶段。假如是刚开始学的话，你一开始跟他讲太多，其实没有一个人听得懂，因为他们根本就没有这样子的经验，或者是说你跟他讲说你要怎么样拉拍怎么样，其实对他们来说其实都是完全听不进去，他也不知道什么意思。
And then also with more advanced players, if they could be like a really high level, for example, a really good junior, and they could have more of a forehand grip on the volley or on the serve. So simply by moving them to a continental, can actually cause trouble for a little while, right? Because they're going to be in the stage where they're aware, but they're not really competent, right? So it's just going to take some time, some repetition, until they become conscious, competent, and then unconscious.
然后就说类似说有些选手他们平常在发球啊接击是在握一个正拍，那问题是你在类似有点在改他们的东西的时候，他们会比较偏向在第二个阶段，就是说他们自己知道说要干什么，问题就是说他还没有办法去体会、去了解、去做这件事情。
Okay, so we talked here about clear instruction and communication, right? So that's huge. When we do give feedback, especially at the higher level and more advanced, we always want to keep it short, yeah, very, very to the point. We want to keep it simple, for them easy to understand, not too complicated of an instruction.
我们刚刚有提到，就是说clear instruction， 还有就是说怎么样去跟选手沟通。那通常是给选手那个反馈的时候，我们要保持的简短不需要把它拉得太长。那第一个就是简单明了，让大家可以马上去了解、去体会。你只要讲得太复杂的话，其实不一定说选手会有办法真正去了解。
And then avoid giving too much information where it's too complicated. Just keep it simple, maybe explain one step at a time, so make it very simple and easy to understand.
尽量不要一次给太多的讯息，因为会造成就是选手一些混淆这样子，所以还是回到就是说要让简单明了，在给那个反馈的时候。
And then last but not least, keep it positive, right? We always want to motivate the player even if they're not doing so well. And you go ahead.
再来就是你要正面的反馈所以那个选手才有办法去接受这些讯息。
So for example, I'm just going to share a quick example where you and I were working with a player the other day where they were trying to do more open stands, for example, on the back end, right? So they normally were able to step in. That's what they've done all the time. And we were trying to teach them the open stance and how to do it. And they're really good players. I mean, we're talking like high-end players. Maybe translate.
然后前几天我们有尝试的去教那个选手反拍的那个开放式。那他们有些选手是很高阶段的有些开放式的东西也没有做得非常的正确。
And then, you know, they weren't very successful at first, but by trying it and for us being positive and say, you know, you're doing fine. You just got to do it this way. Just try a little more and keeping it positive. It kind of gave them the confidence that, hey, I can actually do this if I just do it enough times, and then it becomes automatic.
那我们就慢慢的尝试它，然后给它正面的反馈，然后选手也慢慢的去体会，然后到最后的时候，他们也是愿意的去尝试这件事情。
So if we would have had an attitude of, well, I already showed you one time, why are you not able to do it, right? How would the player feel? They would feel like, man, I suck. I can't do what the coach told me, right? But if you give them the time to repeat it enough and do it enough and encourage them being positive, they actually might believe that they can.
假如说我们的态度是有点指定性的，然后就说，我教你的，那你为什么做不出来？那这样子的话，对选手来说，他们自信心也会有一些影响，然后他们会觉得说，我就反正做不出来，我没有办法达到教练要让我达到的东西。这样子的话，他们可能会停止去尝试这些东西。
So just a conclusion about communication. Like I said, it doesn't really matter how much you know unless the player understands what is it that you're trying to tell them.
最重要就是又是 communication 是怎么样去跟选手沟通不管你懂多少，那你只要没有办法跟选手沟通的话到最后还是没有太大的帮助。
And that the communication is a two-way street, right? So you communicate to the player, and the player also communicates with you, and that's when things are really starting to work really well.
沟通的话不是只有单方面的，沟通是双方向的。 所以说，假如说你只是单方向或者是那边单方向来的话，是没有办法沟通的。
All right, that's it. Any questions for now?